Hi, and welcome to the Release Podcast. My name is Janelle Billy, and I wanted to talk to you guys today about the current season that I'm in. Let me sip my tea. So good. So, I have spent majority of my life running. It feels crazy to say out loud, but I have spent my full 34 years just running from pain, running from experiences, running from one thing to the next, running, pretty much just on survival mode. And about 6 months ago, I found myself at a place where it felt like I couldn't run anymore. And if you would have told me in my early 20s that this is where I would be at 34, I would have been like, please, like, there's just no way. But here I am today at 34 in a season that makes like no sense to me. So let's back it up so you have a little context of how we got here. So I, graduated from high school, did not graduate with the highest GPA. It was actually a miracle that I got accepted into some colleges, but I went off to college really determined, always a really determined girl, always the person that people explained as a type A personality, hard worker. Like that's what I was taught. You work hard, you grind, you go, you chase your dreams, you become X, Y, and Z. And for me, X, Y, and Z was climbing the corporate ladder. I just knew that I was good in that space, that is where I was meant to be. I could make a difference there. I could really show up for people. And so that's what I did. I went to college. I got my degree. I had internships while I was in college. I worked while I was in college. I mean, you want to talk about running, striving, surviving, doing all the things. I got married to my high school sweetheart. Got my first big girl job. Like things were looking up. I became a mom. And I was really, really thankful that I was able to do all of these things and achieve success the way that I defined it so quickly, so early on. But I've always struggled with feeling like good is never good enough. So, it was cool that I had a good job, but like, what else could I do? What else could I take on? It was cool that I had one kid, but I wanted him to not be alone, so I had more. Thank God, and so I found myself really thinking about all of this lately. Like, when have I ever achieved what I wanted to achieve and been happy? And I couldn't answer that question. And someone asked me the other day how I was doing. And for the first time in months, I was able to at least say, I'm doing good without crying. But if I'm honest, these last few months have been so heavy because I've had to sit after years of running, years of striving, years of surviving, just in survival mode, feeling like rest was something that wasn't allowed for me, feeling like if I took a pause, I would lose it all. Um, it was wild. So in November of 2025, I put in my notice at my job. I had worked for a company for 3 years, had finally, landed at my red carpet experience corporate organization. I thought this is where I was going to be. I really did. And I refused to see the red flags that were all around because I just thought there's no way the Lord opened this door for me if I'm not supposed to stay here. But when you see the signs, it is important that you pay attention. I refused to do so. And what it really ended up causing was a lot of health problems for me. I was so stressed out, so overwhelmed, trying to be a good wife and a good mom, and also trying to be this high level executive in HR for a really big company. And I wanted to be perfect at all of it, and it was not working. Like it just really was not working. And I refused to admit it. I was crying all the time, breaking down. My depression was high and low. My anxiety was through the roof. Walking into work made me feel so uneasy. Like I felt so uneasy, and I refused to do anything about it because all I could think about was how am I going to provide for my family? Like, I cannot quit my job without another job. How am I going to provide for my family? This feels crazy. Just my tea. But what I've learned is that sometimes God will call us to do things that seem crazy externally to you and to everybody else who sees it, because what He wants you to do is something that only He understands. And as I sit in this season, I still don't understand exactly where I'm going, but I do know that I'm on the journey of becoming a different woman, becoming a different wife, becoming a different mom, becoming a different friend, becoming a different daughter of God. And I am really grateful for the way that He has allowed me to just see Him moving in my life throughout these last few months and really throughout my whole life. But I have been able to see the way He's shown up and to see the way that He's closed some doors, even when they caused me great pain. And I know that there's always purpose in our pain. And when I quit my job and was treated pretty ugly quickly after, I gave a notice, and then 3 days later I was pushed out of the company. I lost my identity. I crumbled because I didn't know who I was anymore. I had spent my entire 20s building this career, becoming this HR guru, learning everything there was to learn, getting certificates, going back to school, getting degrees. Like I was that. And that meant something to me. Like it meant everything to me to have my career, to have it all, as we like to believe is possible, that we can be these, head of the corporation women and also be an amazing mom who's not overwhelmed, overstimulated, and yelling at her kids, and be the perfect wife and all of these things. And the reality for me was that was not possible. I couldn't morally keep climbing this ladder when I knew that things were not being done right for people. And then I'd show up at home depleted, completely depleted, with nothing to give the people who I loved the most. And when my health took a hit, I knew that I had to go. My heart rate started dropping. I had to see a pelvic floor therapist because I couldn't hold my bladder. My skin broke out. And I was covered. My skin was covered in hives, and I was itching and going to see doctors and getting antibiotics, and I just could not understand what was happening to me. But it turns out that it was all stress. It was all stress showing up, and my body was just begging for me to stop striving, to stop people pleasing, to stop begging people to accept me, to see me, to love me. And that was really hard because I thought I was doing everything right. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do. I thought this was the Lord's will for my life. I thought I had it figured out. And then my life came crashing down quickly. I had a plan when I was leaving. That plan was interrupted. And since then, there has been so many things that have happened that still make no sense. I quit my job out of obedience, and I do not regret that for 1 second. I'm very thankful that the Lord has provided for me and my family and has allowed me to be still, truly. But I would be lying if I said it's been easy or that I've been able to relax, because being still has really just shown me how much I struggle with trusting the Lord, how much I struggle with rebuilding my identity in Him, how much of my value and worth I tied to what I could produce. Y'all, I felt like nothing when everybody else in my family would wake up and have somewhere to go, and I had nowhere to go. And that is a lie. I am chosen. I am loved. I am special. I have purpose because God created me for a reason. But when we tie our identity to what we do and what we can produce, man, it'll really rock you when you lose that. And it rocked me. It rocked me so bad that I didn't even know I was struggling until I was in a very deep, deep, deep depression. Like unable to eat, unable to move, unable to think, couldn't function clearly. And as I've been sitting and thank the Lord that I am not in that place anymore, I've just been wondering, like, what got me here? How how did I get here? Because I just really thought I was doing it right. And as I've spent more time with the Lord, daily, as I have worked hard towards my healing, as I've really worked to unpack the survival mode and understand, what is this? How does this happen? For me, it goes back to my childhood and what I was told who I was supposed to be. And I just believed that and I ran with it. Um, the survival mode came because I have abandonment issues, because I have a father who wasn't there. And I have a mother who neglected me emotionally. And I learned how to strive to impress her with every new, award or job or, promotion or whatever it was that she could say, oh, look at what my daughter has done. That was a way for me to feel loved. And so I learned transactional love early. I learned how to be overly responsible at a young age, that hyper independence, that became my identity very young. And so, yeah, it is really hard for me to undo that, to unlearn that, but it's something that I learned at a very young age, so it makes sense. But what I am finding is that the harder I try to hold on to who I was, the things that brought me, um, I don't even want to say joy because it wasn't joy, but they made me feel confident. But I wasn't really confident. I wasn't really sure of who I was. I was just sure of who I was told to be. So now that I'm becoming who I'm supposed to be in God's eyes, I find that the enemy has attacked me more in the last 6 months than maybe he has in the last few years, to distract me from who I'm becoming. Distractions come in so many ways, shapes, and forms. And the only way I'm able to still be standing right now is because of God. It's because of the way that He has come after me, the way that He loves me, the way that He never stops searching for me. So, although I don't fully know exactly who I am going to be, I know I'm becoming something. And that is so exciting for me to know that I don't have to live the way that I was living. I don't have to be the mom that I was. I don't have to be overwhelmed and overstimulated with the nervous system that can never feel safe. I have found that there's peace in being still. There's peace in the uncertainty. Um, there's joy. There's so much joy in knowing that I don't have to pretend. I don't have to put on. Y'all, I was in them corporate spaces. I mean, completely just, ugh. But I was doing what I thought I had to do because that's all I knew, you know? Like, it was really wild for me to get to a place where I was finally making six figures and be in the bathroom in tears, crying, weeping at work because it was so unbearable. The environment was so toxic. And I just thought, how could I finally get there? The place that we're supposed to go to. How could I finally get here and it be nothing like what I thought? And it's actually the worst feeling in the world. It was heartbreaking and extremely disappointing. And I really lost myself. Like, I lost myself becoming that. And then walking away from it, it was like another set of loss because at least I knew who I was, sort of, kind of. So I've spent the last 6 months in this wave of a pattern of like, who am I? I don't know. Maybe I'm this, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm, and really I'm just becoming. I am just becoming. And becoming is a journey that I thought was a destination. I thought I would like get to this place and then voila, everything would make sense. That's not what this is. And it's so gloomy outside today. Like it has been storming. It's raining. I can hear the water coming down right now. In these days, when I was in corporate, I used to just dream of being at home with my cup of tea, with my blanket, wrapped up, just enjoying the peace that comes from the rain falling. And here I am today, sharing this moment with you guys, enjoying the rain that's falling because I know that after the storm comes a beautiful sun, a beautiful sun. And I just really want to continue to share my story, continue to share where God is leading me to, because I know that there's someone else out there whose nervous system can't stand going into that office, who is tired of performing because they just so badly want to belong somewhere. But maybe you haven't even realized that that's what you're doing. Because for me, I didn't. I thought that's just who I was. I was nice to everybody, even if that meant doing something that in my core, at my gut, I knew you don't need to do that. But I was like, no, I have to be nice. I have to be nice. I have to be nice. That will kill you because every time you ignore your body, every time you ignore what you know you should be doing, you are teaching yourself how not to trust yourself. And you don't want to get to the point where you can't even trust your thoughts because you have spent so much of your time putting everybody else first. That's not how you're supposed to live. And that is no way to live. It's not fun. It's not encouraging. It's not healthy, you know? Two verses I want to share, though, that have really helped me as I have walked through this season. The biggest thing for me with leaving my job was, Lord, how am I going to provide? How am I going to provide? Like that was my worry. Money is a stressor for me, I would say. And I'm just so thankful for how the Lord has just shifted my mind in that. And instead of putting my trust, putting my all in money and feeling like my security came from the paycheck they were able to give me, I've been able to realize that my security never came from them. My security comes from God. And a verse that really helps me every time I start to get worried, because I'm not going to act like I quit my job. Things have been perfect and I'm just good. Y'all, there is real things happening in my life that still make no sense. And it's like, there's no way. There is no way that's happening right now. But it is. And so every time I start to feel a little uneasy again in this season of becoming, when it comes to my finances, I go back to Hebrews 13, verse 5, which says, keep your life free from the love of money. Be satisfied with what you have. For he himself has said, I will never leave you or abandon you. Therefore, we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me? Every time I read that verse, I am reminded that I am not alone. My situation may seem crazy. It may not make sense to anyone else, but I am not alone. My Father is with me and he sees me and he knows me and he loves me. He loves me. And one day soon, I am so certain that I will be able to retell this whole season in a 30-minute, hour-long, speech. And it all makes sense. And it all be worth it. And it all just would bring so much glory to God for what he's done in my life. Hebrews 13:5 is something that I am just very thankful that I was able to find and hold on to. Another verse that really has kept me and really opened my eyes to how God works is one that you're probably familiar with. I'm sure you've heard it. It's really famous. It's Philippians 4, verse 13. And it says, I am able to do all things through him who strengthens me. Now, that's not the part that pumped me up, that had me going, had me ready for battle. What really got me is verses 10 through 13. So let's go back because people preach about that verse, people talk about that verse, and we feel like we can just call on the name, which we can for the strength that we need. You can definitely call on the name, and God will show up and provide the strength that you need. But the few verses before verse 13 really teach you how to have that strength that you need. So I'll start with verse 10. It says, I rejoiced in the Lord greatly because once again you renewed your care for me. You were, in fact, concerned about me, but lacked the opportunity to show it. I don't say this out of need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I find myself. I know both how to make do with little and I know how to make do with lot. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being content, whether well fed or hungry, whether in abundance or in need. I am able to do all things through him who strengthens me. Guys, we have to learn to be content. And as I have been walking through these last few months, I'm like, Lord, I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. Where do I go? Which direction do I move? I can't provide for my family. Like, help me. And reading this helped me to see that, yes, I am able to do all things through him who strengthens me. But I have to first learn how to be content when I am in need and when I have plenty. Being content is so easy when you have everything you feel like you need, when you have less concerns, less stressors. But when you don't, it tests your faith. Do you really believe that the Lord will provide? Do you really believe the words that you read in your Bible? You know? And these last few months for me have been a test of my faith. And I am just so thankful that it doesn't take being the strongest, most faithful servant for the Lord to love you and meet you where you are. All it takes is faith the size of a mustard seed. Very little, very little. And even on my lowest days, I find myself saying, Lord, this is all I have. Please take what I have and let it be enough. And on my best days, I worship, y'all. I worship and I worship and I worship and I worship because although I am not where I want to be, I am so thankful I'm not where I was. I am so thankful my nervous system is calm. I am so thankful I can be present for my kids. I am so thankful I can appreciate and love on my husband in ways I never had before. I am so thankful that I'm alive. So if you take anything from me today, please know, one, God loves you so much. Two, it doesn't matter what you've been through. It matters where you're going. And I know a lot of us have been through a lot of pain in our life, and sometimes it's easy to be wrapped up in the what happened, but learn and surrender that pain so that you can heal, so you can go where you need to go, because there becomes a place in our lives where that pain becomes a hindrance and it stops us from moving forward. Don't let that be your story. And third, just know that there is purpose in your pain. I know it hurts. I know the depths of low. I know them and I know them well. And I'm telling you that there is purpose in your pain because I believe that there's purpose in my pain. I'm going to keep coming back. I'm going to keep sharing. I'm going to keep growing and I'm going to keep becoming. And I hope that you will join me. Welcome to The Release by Pretty Janelle Billy. Love ya.